Yeah, here we go.
Chicka, chicka. Yeah.
Kill Bill and Rev, we don't suck.
I am sexually active. I am sexually active.
Welcome back to We Don't Suck Podcast, episode 94.
94. That's how many times I've had sex today because I'm so sexually active.
Explain.
Okay, when a man and a woman love each other very much, they hold hands. That's sexually active, right? Like holding hands with someone?
Yeah. You ever held hands with your dad?
Yeah, a couple times.
Oh.
What's wrong with that?
So, Bill, you know what? Before we go into today's episode, I've got a few things to sort of like say.
Okay.
One, I think if we just keep focusing this and the next podcast episodes on creepypasta stuff, there's a risk in that because I feel like we might oversaturate this sequence of episodes a little bit, you know?
Uh-huh.
Because
Yeah.
right now in the moment it may seem like, oh, this is the right thing to do. Why don't we do it, right? But for a person who's listening to this in a playlist in the future or revisiting these episodes, 4 episodes back to back of spookiness, you know, who's to say they have enough diapers in their supplies?
Yeah, exactly.
To get through
Plus, I
that.
mean, if we do talk about something spooky might come up, but it doesn't have to be like reading from someone's fucking internet diary that they posted.
Man, we never. I sent 2 emails to the person that put out a copyright strike against our episode from 2 episodes back, right?
Yeah.
And they still haven't replied to any of the emails. I tweeted at them. I got no response. I've sent them a private message on Reddit. I haven't heard anything back from them. I think I found their YouTube channel. They don't have anything posted, but that's the channel that sent out the copyright strike.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to message them there as well. It just doesn't seem like they've been active anywhere on the internet, but clearly they were active in reporting our episode because it says what they wrote when they made that claim.
Right.
And hopefully we can establish some sort of agreement because, as I said, this came from a misunderstanding. And I've done a little bit of research, found out that they had like their own Reddit, and on their subreddit they had a set of rules. They're like, oh, it's okay for you to narrate my stuff so long as you put this link in your top of your description and the donation link for me in your description. And it'd be cool, you don't have to do it, but it'd be cool if you could pin a comment as well with those links under that video. And basically some stuff like that, which is absolutely doable. I don't mind doing any of that whatsoever, but them not getting back to me is giving me a little bit of anxiety, because if someone falsely puts a copyright strike for anything else on our channel, then that starts to get really serious, and we're going to be on the verge of losing our channel, and that would be rather upsetting.
And it's all kind of started from this thing that we did from the from a place of I think love. You know, I liked the stories a lot. And it's really unfortunate because this is something that we've put like a lot of hours and a lot of work into. And I don't want that to be jeopardized over a video that, I mean, we weren't even making money off of the video.
No, that video that video wasn't monetized in the first place.
Yeah, and I haven't posted that on Spotify either because I don't know, like,
yeah,
because of that.
Exactly.
Right? And that's like, now when people hit us up saying like, hey, why is that episode not up? And like a lot of people really enjoyed the episode and they wanted to go back and re-listen to it, etc. Like I feel kind of like we're letting them down to an extent. And I think that, I mean, sure, like I'm 100% down to to put the link in there or to do whatever they want or just not have it up, you know. But it's just like kind of, it puts us in a pretty precarious situation over something that I feel like was coming from a positive place.
Yeah, I think this is all clearly a misunderstanding. We verbally credited them a number of times on the episode. We both said that we enjoyed the stories, and I included the names of the stories as the title so as to not be misleading. I made sure to include the name of the author and stuff like that in the tags. I wasn't aware of, hey, you can't narrate without permission. Me coming from a creepypasta, like someone who enjoys creepypastas, I thought the whole idea was creepypastas were like these copy-paste stories that would kind of float around and you'd read them, and more often than not, they would even have like no origin or unknown origin and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's...
So...
I think also, I think I do want to clarify something too. I don't think that he's going to listen to this, but if he does listen to this, I said something kind of in the beginning of reading that story. I was kind of joking where I said something about like, oh, I'm going to like who wrote this? Who's the author? And then I said something like, does it matter? But I didn't mean it in the sense of like, that it doesn't matter if they wrote the story. The reason why I said that was because I'm old school and I'm used to seeing creepypastas like float around on like 4chan's paranormal board, which I used to go on like a lot. And, there would never be a source of origin on those things. So I don't know. Hopefully I didn't offend him by saying that. I didn't mean it like in a negative way or like flippantly. I was kind of joking, but like also just, I didn't know if they actually posted anything but like maybe a username, like a screen name type situation. You know, because sometimes it would be like these really enigmatic people with a screen name, and then they wouldn't have anything on their social media, etc.
I mean, I think it was pretty obvious that you didn't mean any disrespect. It was sort of flippant and almost sarcastic in tone. So I mean that's on you to apologize, but I don't even think you did anything weird there. And you know, I made fun of the first story a little bit when I said that, you know, he used normally or as normal in a sentence where I thought it didn't make sense to use that phrase or expression. That's it, you know. So other than that, we did nothing but compliment the work.
Yeah. And
you know, that's also not, just taking a step back, I don't think you should be allowed to, it's okay to acknowledge or address or use another person's art only if you review it positively or say good things about it. Because I don't think that's the way of going about doing things.
Yeah, no, I don't think that. But I also don't think that was a very big deal in terms of the story. Like, the story was good. Like, I enjoyed, that was my favorite creepypasta that I'd read in years. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Same.
And I really enjoyed it, but it was more of like a I would have just used a different word there. But I mean, who
gives a shit?
I didn't walk out of there. I didn't walk out of that story, and I'm pretty sure no one walked out of that story was like, wow, this dude's a bad writer because he said this one thing that Bill and Rav didn't.
I'm just frustrated because we put a lot of work into this channel, a lot of work into that episode, and less than 12 hours into it being out, he shut it down. It's been now a couple of weeks of me trying to reach out to dude to ask him to retract the claim and see if we can come to an agreement on something, and just no response. And that's frustrating, and I'm sure the person might have something going on in their lives, but it's kind of like doing something where you put out a fucking strike and then you just disappear is a little frustrating.
Hello. At this point, the boys go on a long rant. In the interest of time, I, Greg the Robot in turn, will be summarizing their points. The boys are deeply afraid of losing their years of hard work on the channel over some sort of binary-based copyright strike that is rooted in technicalities. While they understand, they wish that the author would have reached out to find some sort of common ground instead of jumping straight to copyright striking them and endangering all of their hard work over a misunderstanding. They are frustrated and worried by the lack of response from the author. Chibi Chubby is very important to both Bill and Rafe as well as their fans, and they just want to come to an understanding and have the strike retracted. I am going to go back to the basement. To die.
Yeah, talk about Nintendo.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man. So, recently I discovered something. I checked my email and I saw that I had a new sign-in to Nintendo, like through a Switch. Okay. And so apparently someone had like discovered my password or hacked me of some sort of way, and had logged in. It said from South Korea, then from Brazil, which makes me think that it's like really just one person, but they're using some kind of like funky IP bullshit. They logged in and were using that to play all of my games that I downloaded. Right? Which, man, I would have just let you do that, you know? If it's fine.
Yeah.
You want to play my games? Go for it, okay? Just don't do it illegally. You know, you could have hit me up about that.
Yeah.
But no, so...
Sorry about that, dude.
Yeah, but so I changed the password, right? Because that's what they said to do. I changed my password. I like unlinked my shit. They didn't use it to buy anything, thank God. But I unlinked everything and like changed my passwords just kind of across the board, you know, just to be safe. And so then I was just gonna leave it at that, right? And then like a week later, I noticed that every time I would try to play a game on my Switch, like, and I wasn't around Wi-Fi because like I carry my Switch almost everywhere with me, and so every time I would go to log in, it would, if I didn't have Wi-Fi, it wouldn't let me play games, and I was like, what's going on? Is this some kind of new update? What? This is bullshit. Like, that's the point of the thing, is for it to be portable, right? So I look and it says that my Switch was not designated as the primary console anymore. And so whoever fucking made the, you know, hacked me, made their Switch the primary console. And so like, there was no way, I don't think there was any kind of like legal repercussions that I could have like, I mean, I didn't really want to do anything. I just wanted to get them out of my shit, you know? And so I had to like text Nintendo. I couldn't email them or text them. Apparently texting was faster. So I texted them. And so I typed this long ass message that was like, hey, I've already changed my password, but somebody hacked my account, and you know, and I say like all this stuff. I basically say the whole thing, right? And then like the first response is, have you changed your password? And I was like, yes, I'm just trying to designate this as my primary console, because it wouldn't let me.
Gotcha.
And then she's just like, oh, I have to ask these questions. And I didn't even say, I just said, I've already changed the password. I didn't say, oh, I've already said that, you know? And then I was like, okay, well, such and such and such. And then she just kept rattling off like things I had already said in order. Like, it was like she read my message and was like, I said like, oh, I changed my passwords, I unlinked my card, I did this, I did that, right? And then she just went down each one of those things.
Right.
And I was just sitting here thinking like, we're just wasting time. Like, we could have just had it done like 30 minutes. It took like an hour of texting back and forth to get the thing fixed. And you know what I really hate is like when you're on tech support with someone and you just tried something, you just tried a thing, and then they'll be like, and you said, hey, I just did this, and they're like, hey, do this, and I just say, hey, I already did that, it didn't work. You know? And then they're like, do it again. And I'm like, okay, and I do it, and I'm like, yeah, it didn't work. You know?
And they're like, are you sure you did it right?
That's what I'm saying. Like every time, man, I hate that. It's like the same.
It's the exact same
thing
shit.
When,
It's that whole like lack of nuance and just like assuming that you're dumb.
Exactly. And I understand that they have a script and they're supposed to say it because it's like what they do all the time. And like there might have been something that I missed or I thought that I said or thought that I did or something like that. But I don't know, man. Like whatever happened to just having a conversation and like problem solving instead of like just saying, did you like, why did I even type the thing in the beginning? You know, what was the point of doing that?
I've had that so many times. I've had that happen a couple of times, unfortunately, in the last 2 years alone. As you know, I got swindled at one point for my camera.
That shit was whack.
Yeah. And it was very much largely like it could have been prevented because I figured out I got swindled before the delivery was arranged. And I contacted Royal Mail, which is the company here. It's a private company. It's just called Royal Mail, but it deals with deliveries and shit. And I paid like, I think a big fee, like a $20 to $50 fee on the delivery alone so I could track it and have a little more control over it to begin with.
Right.
Hours after shipping it off, I contact them. I'm like, holy shit, send it to the wrong address. This is like someone's trying to swindle me. I just realized this now. And they're like, sorry, sir, there's nothing we could do about it once it's gone. You know, like, and I'm like, okay, can I speak to someone else? You know, and they just wouldn't let me because and so I had to contact the police in London. They're like, try calling this number. And it was just a bunch of robots. They're like, report like an incident of you being fooled online. And it's for some sort of like little questionnaire. And I'm like, this isn't going to do me any fucking good.
Yeah.
So I call the police again. I get a different person. Gives me a different result. Says, hey, where is it supposed to be delivered? I'm like, Scotland. They're like, okay. Call the police in the city where it's supposed to arrive. I'm like, okay. So I have to contact the police in Glasgow. I call them. They were nice and accommodating. Way more accommodating. They're like, what's happened? I told them about the Royal Mail. They said, call them and say this. I called Royal Mail. Followed the steps, and they said, well, the bright side is the address isn't full. There is no apartment number. So even though there is the building number and the street name and everything, without a full address, we cannot deliver things. And I'm like, thank fucking God, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's great. I'm like, cool. Can you confirm that, like, that means today will fail and I'll get it tomorrow? They're like, yes. Call the police. I tell them that. They're like, okay, cool. Just call us again if anything happens. I see that they try to deliver it because I have the tracking thing. It's like, I'm sorry, what are you trying to deliver? Why is it even in the van if there's not a complete address on it? Why is it not being sent back? They're like, sir, it's okay. It's going to be sent back. Then they try to redeliver it again the same day. And then the next morning, and then again, and then someone picks it up. Someone comes to the building where the parcel was like staying with the Royal Mail Company. Someone comes in, signs off, and grabs the parcel.
Man.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, what the fuck happened? We were in a conversation between you, me, the police officers. You told me there's not a full address. You told me your policy dictates it's going to return to the person who sent it. And they're like, sir, you sound mad. Of course I sound fucking mad.
Yeah,
I hate it when they do that shit. I hate when they say, like, you sound pretty angry. Yeah, I'm fucking angry because I'm talking to idiots. Why wouldn't I be angry when I'm told one thing and I called every day, multiple times a day? Bro, I had to stay sitting, waiting on the phone in line for hours. I'm not exaggerating. Hours. Just to be told one thing.
So infuriating.
Then someone picks it up without an address. How did you do that? The police says they'll follow it through. They tell me next week they're going to call me. They're going to arrange an in-person interview. They didn't. That's where it left off. Nobody ever contacted me. I gave up on it. And you know what? I feel like these people expect you to give up. Because I was... fucking elbow deep into that shit for 2 weeks long, right? I got swindled out of approximately $4,000, $5,000, right? And man, and I like, you know, when I packaged the camera, I dusted it, I cleaned it, I did so great. I added some bonus lenses and things like that and batteries that I wasn't selling with it. I just decided to, like, you know, do a really good job. I made sure I put newspapers in this box, that it was packaged correctly, that I paid the most that I could for shipping so that they would get it within 24 hours, even though they were in a different country. And everything, I go through such crazy lengths to be swindled, and everything was made so easy for that to happen. I was lied to a million times by these companies who just can't. Sorry, there's nothing we could do. There's nothing we could do. I call back again. Another person tells me there is something they can do. That's what pisses me off. People who read off script, people who don't. People that keep a record, people that don't. People tell me one thing, people tell me another thing. I lose my shit. I lose my money. I contact Royal Mail. They say, we'll do an investigation. 2 weeks later, they come back to me. They're like, we've done an investigation and we've concluded that we did nothing wrong. Fuck you. Fuck you, eat my ass. How about the part about, and the thing is, I would always be like, hey, how about the part when you told me that without a complete address, it cannot be delivered. That's against your policy. And they say, sorry, sir, if you have any further problems, you're just going to have to file a complaint again.
Yeah.
It's like they rely on you to give up, and you know what? They won, because I was so sapped of my emotional strength that I just, like, I don't want to think about it ever again. I want to move on with my life, and they rely on that.
It's so shitty. It's like it's like the thing that's the worst part about that is, like, obviously the financial, like, and losing your shit, like, that's terrible, right? But it's like also this, like, crazy emotional beat down, and you just have to, like, take it. That's the worst part about it. I hate doing anything that has to do with the like postal system in general. Same. Like, I remember recently I bought I got one of those cameras. I haven't really gotten a chance to use it too much, but it was like it's a teenage engineering camera. It's like basically like an analog, like almost like a Polaroid type situation, but you can control it with an app on your phone, and it's really cool, like some of the stuff you can do with it, right? But I ordered some film for it, right? And I got it sent. This is right when I moved, but I got it sent to my parents' house. And I broke my leg, so I couldn't really go up there and go look for it. Well, anyway, like, it said it was delivered. And I'm sitting here thinking, like I didn't get anything. They didn't say anything to me about it, because anytime I would get mail there, they would always, like, hit me up, you know? And so eventually, like, when I'm able to walk, I get up there and I'm looking for this film, and the film is so expensive for, like, any of those old, like, you know, instant camera type situations. It's really expensive. Yeah. And I ordered, like, a lot of it because it was cheaper to buy it in bulk. And I was like, we'll never need all of this, and so I'll be fine. Right. You know what I mean? And so then I go over there and I can't find it, like, anywhere. And I hit up the seller. It was someone on Amazon, and they sent it via FedEx or something, right? And it said it was delivered on FedEx. And I was like, Dan, did someone just steal my fucking film? Mm-hmm, you know? And but the thing is, like, nobody would just walk up and take it, because we live in the woods, you know? Gotcha, like, we have neighbors, but we know all of our neighbors, you know? And it'd be weird. Yeah. So anyway, basically what happened is I found it, but it was, like, delivered in this very, very odd place. Like, it was behind these, like, almost like under the steps. And I'm sitting there like, why the fuck would you do that? Mm-hmm. Like, why would you it's like they hid it. It's like legitimately, it felt like I was on an Easter egg hunt, and I was looking for it, and I found it, and it was in, like, the last place I would look. You know? Yeah. And I was just like, that whole situation made me look like a fucking dumbass, because I'm, like, sitting here, like, I emailed these people at Amazon like 5 times. They think I'm crazy, you know, because I'm like, it wasn't delivered. There's no way it was delivered. And they're like, it says it was delivered. I'm hitting up FedEx. FedEx is like, you know, like, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. It says we delivered it, you know. And I'm like, is there, like, a chance that someone at FedEx just didn't do it right or whatever? And they're like, I mean, who knows? And that was kind of it, you know? Yeah, that's so annoying. That's, man, but the worst thing is the whole communication part, right? Like, it is when, so I've had a similar situation happen to me where I've ordered something, it said it arrived, that I signed for it and everything. I call them and I'm like,
and they sound annoyed that I'm calling. As if like, man, I'm so fucking bored, I got nothing better to do than call and make up this story. I hate that I have to call you. I hate that I had to look up your stupid fucking phone, to go navigate through 4 different computers before I reached you, had to wait for a while, and now I'm talking to some sort of shithead who just sounds so disinterested and, oh, yeah, I get it, your life sucks, I don't give a fuck. I worked a lot of shitty ass jobs, and every time I worked any shitty job, whether it was like washing dishes in cold water in winter in a kitchen with an open window, and it's snowing on me for 8 hours straight with my feet bleeding, I did it the best I could. And when I had to go out and
uphill both ways,
bro, I've always, and I know it sounds funny and cliche, but no matter what job I ever did, regardless of how shitty it was, I always did my best, because I knew that the people coming in there, they have no idea what's going on, and they're supposed to not know what's going on there. They're not supposed to be burdened by how difficult my life is, how difficult my day is going. They're coming in for food and an experience that they're expecting. Now, whether they're shitheads or not is besides the point in this particular example. But I've always given everything my 100. I don't know. That's kind of what I expect from others. So even if you work in a helpline,
at least give me 70. You know what I'm saying?
Give me
50. Like,
50.
don't hit me with a 40.
Yo, don't
like,
hit
just
me.
Do something.
Don't hit me with a 5%. Don't like. Please, just be a little bit human. I call them. They're like, sir, they said they signed. I'm like, I didn't sign. They're like, sir, you probably weren't home. I'm like, I'm home all day. I work from home. They're like, well, sir, I don't know. Maybe you didn't hear it. I'm like, I was working from my bedroom. It has a huge ass window onto the entrance to my house. I wouldn't have missed you. I had Amazon deliveries come in today. I didn't miss them, right? They're like, all right, sir, we'll refund you. I had to go through so much to get refunded. 4 months later, my neighbor, I run into my neighbor outside, and they're like, they had the parcel, and they gave it to me. And the thing is, I'm glad I got my money, I got the parcel, but that all could have been avoided if they had a better tracking system, if they weren't trying to be assholes and trying to figure out, okay, well, we definitely got a signature, so perhaps this is what happened. No, they did everything they could to put the blame on me. Like, are you sure you didn't put the wrong address? Are you sure you didn't do this, you didn't do that? It's always like on the attack, on the offensive, and I'm like, yo, I know you talk to a lot of people and you don't see their faces, and so there's like this disconnect between who you speak with, but just don't be too disillusioned. I am a person on this other end as well. I get you're doing your job, but I'm also calling in because I'm having to deal with something. Be human, please.
I got another FedEx. Well, yeah, it was FedEx. Fuck FedEx, man.
Fuck FedEx,
not
for
the
sure.
people who work there, but
no, the corporation.
Fuck everybody who's ever delivered anything ever. When you think about it, I'm just playing. I need those people very much to live.
Absolutely.
But no, like, I remember one time I ordered. It was the most amount of like Ramona CDs that I ever gotten at one time. I ordered I think it was 500 or something.
Oh wow!
And I was having them delivered to my house, and I was like looking for them. I was like waiting, and they come pretty. They either come pretty early or it's like later in the day. You know, and it was like 9 a.m. or something, and then I woke up. They came a day late. That's what it was. It's like they were supposed to get there, but they were delayed for some reason. And then like the next day, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I wake up at like 9 and I look and I see that like it says it was delivered. And so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. When I go outside right now, they're going to be just chilling out there like a big ass bunch of boxes of CDs, because it's 2 huge boxes that come in
crates.
that have a bunch of little ones in it, right? When you do that much. And I go outside and there's no CDs. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because it's so, and like I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, that's like a lot of money for them, like to not have some sort of signature system or something, But I was just like, okay, I'm gonna just call FedEx and like figure it out, you know. And I'm calling them, and they're like, I get this dude who was clearly like not here in the, I think he was wherever the FedEx capital is, you know, in like Chicago or somewhere,
right,
you know. And so I'm sitting there talking to him like, yeah, dude, I ordered a bunch of CDs and they're just straight up not here. And he's just like, yeah, man, they were delivered. And I'm like, yeah, so here's the thing. Like, they're 2 huge boxes and they're not here. And he's like, do you live at such and such? Like this address? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, yeah, they were delivered there. I was like, no, they weren't. And we're sitting there literally just going like, yeah, they were.
Yeah.
No, they weren't.
He's like,
yeah,
no,
were.
I'm sure it's
no,
somewhere. They're like, no, dude, you don't get it. There are no houses around me. It's a single home.
Like, dude, there's nothing here. Like, there's no one, you know. The next house down is like, I'm talking about like a football field down. Okay.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, yeah, I mean, just like ask your neighbors. I'm like, what do you mean ask my neighbors? Like, how do you, like, you know? So anyway, I go out and like, I mean, you've been to this area, but it's like, it all kind of circles around, and it's like, I have neighbors, but like I said, they're about a football field away. And so I'm walking down, and as I'm walking, I just happen to see one of my neighbors. I'm looking in people's yards, you know. I'm like kind of like, well, there's a pathway, and then you can like just see like everyone's yards and stuff. I'm looking in people's yards, I don't see anything, and I just happen to catch this lady who lives like at the very end there. I'm talking like it was like the end of the fucking walkway, you know. And she's just like, oh, hey, I have a package, these 2 huge packages for you. And I was just like, why did you take them inside? Like, why would you do that? They're so heavy.
Yeah.
And she lives by herself, so she literally picked them bitches up and took them inside. I guess she was afraid they were gonna get stolen or something.
Oh, yeah, I see.
You know.
Jeez.
But like, thank God she had them.
Yeah.
And she knew who I was, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Like,
that is crazy. And since we're on the subject matter of like, this has kind of been like group therapy for us at the moment. There's the biggest problem I have though is within the, I don't know if it's an industry, I guess in America it is, the health industry. So I'm not going to divulge too much personal stuff, but I've had to have a lot of contact with doctors this year and just different hospitals and things like that. And at one point there was something, you know, there was an appointment arranged at this place. We were there was a request for me to be there. I go there, multiple hours of interviewing and collecting information on me. Told I'd be called by a specific thing next week. A week passes, get no phone call, contact that place. And this was super important. A matter of life and death. Not even like, haha, tee hee hoo hoo. No, it's like so incredibly important. And it had to do with mental health. Very unstable mental health. And it was so important. And I'm getting on the phone, this stupid fucking secretary person who's like, sir, we don't have anything. Like, sorry, we don't. I'm like, can you forward me to the people I spoke with last time? Because it's a hospital, and there's like an annexed building next to it, which is like kind of a separate thing, but it's also but you have to call the main building to get through them. And they're like, right, we're not going to connect you because we don't have you on record. I'm like, well, I spent 3 or 4 hours last week there. I was summoned there. I had to go through multiple interviews and questioning with multiple doctors and everything. I'm sure someone will know something, right? Because I was very frustrated at the idea that, like, wow, I'm not on their records digitally, but I vividly recall they were taking notes vigorously.
Right.
And sorry, sir, there's nothing we could do. They hang up on me. I call again. I get another secretary, but it's the one right next to her. And I start explaining my thing. I get cut off, and they say, sir, my colleague just told you we don't have you on record. I'm like, I understand. I'm just trying to say that this isn't important. And I kept getting interrupted. Like, she wouldn't let me finish at all. She's like, sir, I have to say, and this is something really dear and personal to me. And she kept interrupting me, and I freaked out. I screamed at the top of my lungs. I said,
my ass would do the same thing. Fuck that shit.
And I said, you are dealing with people who are suicidal and summoned because of an event that has to do with that. And this is your way you're communicating. Like, why can you have no patience or empathy or nuance? Why are you reading off a script? I screamed the top of my lungs. I said, you have a responsibility and you can't even do your fucking job right, you stupid idiot. Or I don't remember I think I said, you fucking asshole, I said, yeah. Either asshole or bastard. I said, you fucking bastard.
You fucking like that. Like, really,
I screamed and I turned the phone off. I tossed it as hard as I could across the room, and I collapsed onto the floor, and I wept. Just thinking about it right now is like making me a little emotional because I can't go into the precise reasons of everything of the circumstance and talk about it in much detail, and that's why I've been kind of coding it in a lot of different things. But it's something super important, and for people like that who aren't professionals in the medical field or field of psychiatry, but you have to go through them, and for them to not have just like normal human decency or like empathy for the people that they know they will be communicating with. They're the middleman party, and they're communicating with such important people and with so little care for what they are. If I was a single person, if I were by myself, I would have given up. I would have thrown that phone and I would have not pursued a path towards a mental health path to healing and everything if I didn't have a partner. And I know a lot of people go through that. They have to go through secretary after secretary, robot after robot, a doctor that doesn't give a shit, a pharmacist that doesn't give a shit. Going through all of these people, it drains you. And so many people give up, and so many people end up fucking killing themselves because these people who have a responsibility like everyone else who does their job, but especially if you're working within the field of medicine and mental health, you have such a tremendous responsibility. I don't care if you have a degree in medicine or mental health psychology or not. If you're working in the building that deals with that and you're the middleman party, take your responsibility seriously, because so much is at stake. It's like when we talked about, in the Black Lives Matter episode, we talked about how the police needs to be held at a very different level of responsibility than someone who just bags your groceries. There is a difference, because there's a difference between life and death there potentially, and the same goes with anyone who works in any way within the sphere of medicine. And God damn it, I may be frustrated at FedEx and all of these other things, and that is infuriating. And I'm frustrated at the Christopher Maxim who gave us a copyright strike. I'm frustrated, but none of that comes close to the frustration that I just described, because it will result in people losing their lives, and it does time and time again. And there's nothing that frustrates me more than knowing that these people who are already in pain and hurting and need help so desperately have to go through so many hurdles just to be heard. I'm sorry, I just had to get that out.
No, you're good, man. I think I've never really, because I've never had any kind of interactions with mental health, anything. I've never been to therapy. I've never been in situations where I don't know, I've been down before, but I've never been to a point where I felt like I was gonna hurt myself or others. You know what I mean? Or just a soul crippling depression that didn't go away. Usually I think a lot of that stuff for me is situational, but I can say that it is irresponsible. I don't even think irresponsible is the right word. I think dangerous is a correct word, because I think a lot of people cut off people who are secretaries or people who are the middlemen in these situations, they cut off their empathy because they're like, oh, like that's like above my pay grade. You know, like that's like not what I'm just supposed to be connecting people. And I'm sitting here thinking like, how many people's lives have you ruined inadvertently just because you were flippant and rude to them?
Yeah.
Like a lot of these people aren't going to pursue things further if they have someone basically saying like, don't. Because that's what they're doing. Especially,
bro, just to get to that point where you realize you do need help is a big step. And again, I don't want anyone to worry about me. I just don't want to go into great detail about what happened, and it might not necessarily have to do directly with me, but it's something that's super personal, and it was something super serious, and I know that it happens to many other people, right? But just to get to the point where you know you need help is a big step, and then to actually pursue it, actively go and try to do it despite, you know, your hormones, your neurotransmitters, your genetic construct kind of going against you, and your, you know, maybe your character, and so you're already it's an uphill struggle. It doesn't take much to dissuade that kind of person to give up or to stop pushing upwards and just kind of go back down. It doesn't take much, especially when you're dealing with these people who make you feel like an asshole for calling, who make you feel like an asshole for being frustrated that hours of your life were spent on opening up about incredibly traumatic stuff that's super difficult to deal with, and having to talk multiple people that day about it despite not wanting to do so. But again, you've taken those steps, you've taken those necessary steps to heal yourself or your loved one, right? And so you're doing all of this, and then there's nothing about their conduct that communicated an appreciation for the severity of that, or for the seriousness, or for the value in that. And don't undermine your power as a secretary in these kinds of circumstances.
Yeah.
You are absolutely very responsible for what people are going to and not going to do. Again, it's so crazy. I don't feel like people like that should be allowed to in those positions. Whoever the HR is who allows these kinds of people to get hired into positions like that, y'all need to get fired. Y'all need to be held responsible. How can you're telling me that in a city like London, where people are constantly looking for jobs, you couldn't find someone who gave a shit a little more? Or the people who maybe are training them, which also could be, for all we know, HR. Maybe they just don't give a fuck enough. Maybe it's just a general problem of people just not giving a fuck, in which case, well, there's a big problem there. Because if the people working within the sphere of mental health don't give a fuck about people's mental health, then who will? Who's supposed to care in that situation then? You know what I mean? So it's incredible how I just can't imagine having this huge responsibility and not treating it with the respect that it demands. It's a sacred responsibility. You are talking with people who are, maybe they spend months, maybe years thinking about maybe one day they'll pursue help, and they're finally taking their first step. You're supposed to reward them with at the minimum that you can do is reward them with a little bit of your attention and humanity. So if they say something that doesn't align with your script, try to be as human as you can, you know, and try to be as understanding as you can, and say, like, could you give me a moment, and you inquire with your supervisor, or say, you know, there's different ways. There's different ways to deal with certain things. Do not sound pissed off at, like, why are you wasting my time? You know, that's exactly how I always feel.
At least attempt to be accommodating, especially in a field like that. Like, it's like you kind of expect it from, I mean, I don't think you should have to expect it, but the things where people have problems with their packages or have problems with, I don't know, like deliveries or money or something like that. Like, it's kind of expected. But I think in any kind of health situation, especially mental health, but just health in general, You know, it's a really stressful time. It's all stressful. Everything is stressful. Basically, what I'm getting at is if you're listening to this right now and you work a shitty job that you don't like, because I did that, Rav did that. We did that for a long time. And we weren't happy when we were doing it. But you know what? I put my fucking little happy face on. And I talked to a bunch of people who didn't fucking like me and or made assumptions about me all the time. And I would just sit there and just smile and talk to them and try to make them feel good. If you just do that, if everybody would just sit down for a little bit and just try to make everybody else's day a little bit better when they go out and do things, the world would be a better place. If everybody just treated everybody how you want to be treated, even if it's just on a small community-based level, that area will be happier. And you never know, like you just saying something nice to someone as they're, you know, just in a small interaction, you know, that could be the difference between them having a nice day or a terrible day.
Facts.
And I know that sounds like some like really simple shit, but it's just like the thing that's fucked up is like it's simple shit, but no one does it. Like it's like these little things.
Yeah, because people think it's so played out, right? Like people think it's like, and we are speaking in generalities. Of course, people say like, oh, you guys are speaking generalities. Yeah, like we're on a podcast, right? So of course we're going to speak in generalities. But I know it's corny, but the change begins with you is something that I believe in, because if someone's when I was serving people at the Chinese restaurant I worked at, if someone was an asshole to me, that's their world interacting with my world. And if I react to them like an asshole, I've lost in my mind because I've succumbed to their rules of their life.
Yeah.
This is how they want me to operate, so this is what I did. Now, fuck that. I must stay playing by my rules, and I walk away thinking they treated me like an asshole, but they were the assholes, and I didn't give in. I still did what I thought was the right thing to do. I can live with myself fine. I'm not even going to remember what they look like next week.
Do you have any like funny like or weird interactions that you had when you were serving? Because I have like 1,000 that are really like interesting.
I'd say for the most part I had a lot of positive ones, but there was one time it was I dropped the food, right? And it was a lot of food and drinks and like soups, right? Because it was I say it's a Chinese restaurant. It wasn't a Chinese restaurant. It was actually primarily Japanese restaurant, but it was run by Chinese people at that point. So
yeah,
and it had like just generally lots of like Oriental style cuisine, and I had to go bring these soups over, and everything fell, and it almost fell on the baby carriage.
Oh yikes, dude!
Jesus Christ! And I was like,
oh fuck!
And like I wasn't even supposed to be serving yet, but like.
They bumped you up early, huh?
They said like, just go bring that over. I'm like, I don't even know how to hold so many things at once. And my arms and hands were numb from washing. Like we only had cold water in the kitchen for whatever fucking reason. And it was the middle of the winter.
Awesome.
I genuinely, I would wash shit for 6 to 8 hours nonstop. That was my job, just having to wash dishes in cold water. And my hands were numb, so I wasn't carrying it very great. I drop it. I apologize. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I one of my first time ever bringing it over, and I think that much is evident. And like, I try to be nice and accommodating and clean up, and I was like, but I felt really horrible. I was just happy that it didn't hurt anyone, but no, not really. I mean, there's lots of people who drink a lot. There was like this lady who would come with her wife and family, and they were like quite rambunctious. And this lady, she loved to like drink. She'd be like, bring me more hot sake and bring me more. And then they would sometimes take...
Hell yeah.
Sometimes they'd want to take pictures with me. So like there were funny interactions like that because they'd be pretty drunk towards the end. But they're drunk in like an unhealthy way, I would say. You know, they weren't so loud.
Having a good time.
Yeah, they were just having a good time. And, you know, like I feel like the lady knew how much she could drink, right? But she was very much kind of like you know how there's like the stereotype for like the manly man, or like the dad kind of thing. She radiated strong dad energy, you know.
Powerful.
She was just like, like fully in control, and like would pull her, almost like caricature dad. Like she would pull her wife close to her sometimes just to kiss her, and then, you know, sit her back, grab one of the kids, move him, and like, I don't know, just so in control. And she would come all the time, and she was great. So, but she wanted me to serve them. So that was really nice. And I guess the honestly, the funniest experiences were really behind the scenes, seeing cockroaches in the kitchen on the floor and being like,
hell yeah, dude.
Like,
when I was at Ruby Tuesday, I saw so much gross shit, bro.
Bro, it's disgusting.
I saw so much gross
shit. Or
shit.
the ice cream that we sold, it was like super expensive, but in fact, it was like supermarket bought mochi ice cream that we had to take out of its packaging, put on this like fancy looking plate, and microwave it for 5 seconds and bring it out. And we charged for one little mochi ice cream more than the full box, in which there were like 20. That's insane.
Yeah, that's how they make your money in the service industry, my man. I remember when I was at Ruby Tuesday, I got the manager. I might have already snitched on this shit one time, but it's a new manager in there now, and it wasn't the manager's fault. I like my old manager. She was cool, but so this was Salad Bar's fault. But everyone loves the Salad Bar at Ruby Tuesday, and I remember one day we smelled something really bad on the Salad Bar, and I was like, "What's that smell?" You know, and everyone kept saying like, "Oh, the wood." Like there was a drip. Because it, like the Salad Bar, when there wasn't anything on it, you know, it gets ice on the bottom of it because it has a little freezer or like a refrigerator type situation, and it dripped down and it was rotting the wood. And I was like, I'm pretty sure rotting wood doesn't smell like that, you know? But they kept saying that over and over, and people were eating on that shit, man. People were eating, and I'm like, what, you know? And so like I go over there and I look down, and there was a maggot on the Salad Bar.
Oh my God.
Like just crawling. And I was just like sitting there like did something go bad? It was summertime, and you know, flies would get in. And I'm sitting here thinking like, what went bad? And it laid its eggs in it, you know? And like just sitting here just like people were just eating on that shit. I didn't eat the Salad Bar there ever again.
Yeah, of course not. After that,
I've got two really good ones. I feel like I might have said this one on a very early episode, but when I first started serving, I'm talking about the first week. I'm talking about the first 3 days. They gave me my first party, which was like, it was like 6 people, which is pretty easy. You know, like it's nothing too crazy, but it is like a lot if you just got started, you know, you're kind of worried. You don't know what you're fucking doing, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, one of these dudes that was there, it was, he was from Nigeria, right? And he was incredibly nice, okay? But he ordered, everybody ordered like flavored lemonades. Like they had like the blackberry lemonade, blueberry, like all these different lemonades, right? So everybody ordered flavored lemonades, and I was still learning how to carry stuff on the big tray, you know? And so I'm sitting there and I'm talking to him, and I'm talking about how it's like my first week and I'm just getting used to it and all that stuff. And as I'm doing that, I just spill an ass of fucking lemonade all over this man. I'm talking about, it was in his lap. He was wearing a white shirt. That shit was all over his shirt. Like it was like the most comically like, oh, it's my first, whoa, like one of those situations.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just all over this fucking dude. And he was so nice about it. But like, if that were to happen to me, I'd be so mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you imagine going out to eat if the dude just spills like 4 lemonades all over you?
Yeah. That is funny.
That was like probably the wildest thing I ever did.
I'd still feel bad. You know what? Whenever something like kind of like that's happened to me, I always felt bad for the server.
Yeah, of course. He was super understanding and was very nice. They tipped me, you know, like but it was just funny that, like, you know, it's unfortunate. Let's just say it that way. But the wildest thing anyone has ever said to me while I was there, which is a lot of crazy shit, was there was this family. It was like a husband and wife, 2 kids, and a grandma. Okay. Right. The grandma, apparently she was a little frisky grandma. You know when people get old and they're like dementia's setting in, but they just don't quite know when to like tone it down a little bit, you know, at that point. I assume she was dealing with dementia. If she wasn't, she was just super turnt.
She grab you by the sack.
Yeah, so as I'm so I'm walking up there, and just I want to say I've never felt okay. I feel really bad for women because I feel like they always deal with like dudes like being creeps and staring at them or like making remarks, etc.
Sexual harassment,
yeah, that kind of shit. I've never been sexually harassed before. I don't know if you would consider this sexual. I guess it is sexual harassment, like so like case. What's his case book? What do you call it? What's the word? Handbook. Why am I saying case book? Your case book.
Classic handbook case is what you're trying to say, right?
Handbook case. Yeah. Whatever, man. I got sexually harassed. Anyway, so she was just like, wow, you're looking good today, boy. Like that, right?
Really?
That's not the worst part.
Okay.
I've had older people like say stuff like that before, but nothing like, you know, inappropriate, you know? And then I was just like, thank you, you know, such and such, you know? And so then like I walk away and I come back and then she's like, she got like some kind of like fucking, what's like a real, like she's a real bitch, like a real bitch drink, like a fucking, what are they called?
Sunny D.
A Bloody Mary. She got a Bloody Mary. It was like 6 p.m., you know, it's prime Bloody Mary season.
Right, yeah.
You know, so she gets her the Bloody Mary and she starts getting a little sauced up, right? And she's wearing like shorts, you know, but they're kind of loose. You know, and like
hell yeah,
man. And then so
let it all hang out.
She keeps making like little things, and like the husband, like not her husband, but her son or whatever, is just like looking like embarrassed at me, like, oh, sorry, you know. And I'm just like, it's fine, whatever, you know. And she keeps saying like, oh, that fine young waiter coming over here, like every time I come over there, and I'll be like, yeah, you know. Anyway, then she goes,
show a little skin.
Yeah, well, she goes like this. She goes like, hey, you want to see my tattoo? And I was like,
sure.
I just said like I looked at the dad and was like, what's she doing? And he's like looks at me like I don't know what she's fucking doing. You know what I mean? And she goes, look, it's here on my thigh, and she like spreads her legs a little bit and like points to like it's like right. Like
at her coochie,
right at her coochie, right? You know, and I was just like, I don't see anything like that, and she was like, oh, my pussy must have ate it.
What?
And I just looked at her, and I just looked at the dad, and he was like, oh, grandma, you know, and I was just like, I gotta go. It's like the family, like it was so fucking funny though. Like the family were like trying not to laugh, because it was so like,
oh my god.
But anyway, like, so I go to my manager John there, and I was like, yeah, man. So I gotta tell you, this old lady, like, I'm pretty sure she just sexually harassed me. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, oh, sick. And like, he was like, what did she say? And I was like, she pointed at her thigh and said, I got a tattoo. And then he was like, oh, did she say her pussy ate it? And I was just like, how did you know that? And I was like, how did you know that? You know? And I thought maybe he interacted with that lady. He was just like, oh, I've seen it all, man. And I was just like, because he served for so long, I guess that's happened to him before. I'm like,
Also, just to quickly like make a point, I laughed at what you said there because I know you're okay, and that this wasn't a particularly traumatic experience.
No, it was hilarious for me.
Yeah,
but
I'm not laughing at the fact that sexual harassment in such situations is a real thing. It happens all the time, and yes, it can happen to men as well as women, and it is no laughing matter. But you are my friend. I know you. I know how you must have felt. I know that you're not traumatized by this, so it's funny to me.
I think the difference is that I don't feel like a threat in the situation, but also on top of that,
it's an old lady with dementia as well,
I've never had something like that happen before, so I kind of walked out of there like, yeah, man, old ladies love me, But definitely, I'm not trying to like make light of like people who actually endure actual sexual harassment.
But I also feel like there's levels to this, right? Because for instance, when I worked my previous job and I was a project manager at this Japanese software localization company, and at one point just before I became project manager, or around the time I became project manager, one of the people that I was training, this is a Japanese young lady. So I was really training her closely and everything, and then she had like this translator assigned to her on her team, who I was I wouldn't say friends with, but in terms of people at work, the person I was most comfortable with joking around with and talking, and like the closest thing you could have to an actual friend in an office space.
A work buddy
for sure, yeah. And so she would say things like, I've sat him over there, and like he'd be like less than 3 feet away from her. Like, I sat him over there so I can look at him more often, like for eye candy, She would always refer to him as eye candy. And that was funny because I knew what kind of person she was. I knew he could hear it, and he thought it was funny too. And I knew what kind of person he was. I wouldn't have tolerated that kind of behavior in any other situation, but I agreed. I was like, oh yeah, I agree, definitely eye candy, Like, I was...
He's like, yeah, I'd fuck.
That's what she said. I said, like, I was thinking of actually sitting him close to my office so that I could stare at him, And we'd just kind of joke around like that. And now they live together.
I was thinking about fucking
I'm fucking him on my desk. No.
Jesus.
No, but, like, and now they live together, and they've been a couple for a while.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and as I said, like, I feel like there is nuance to these things. She was very clearly joking, and she's like not at all imposing this like small Japanese.
I mean, she must not have been joking that much if they live together now.
Man.
She was joking about him being attractive.
She's like coy, but she's like, she knows what she wants to. She's just like she knows how to be funny about it and still come across. She had this like, oh, look at me, I'm all reserved and shit. But she wasn't kind of either. She was still kind of forthcoming,
kind of forward,
but in a way where I feel like that it was so obvious. It was almost like cartoon like, and she already tested the waters with me. She knew because I was training her, and she tested the waters with him, and I knew he'd be fine with it because I already knew him fairly well at that point, and I knew her enough to know like what she meant, and that it was kind of basically a way to compliment him, but not in like a sexually harassment kind of way. It's jokey, because it's just like the three of us were very jokey people, So when I got finally promoted to project manager, I was sitting there with the director and the other project managers, my peers, and the technical manager, and we were sitting there, and the kind of shit we'd be saying to each other is like way worse than anything I would go say to a tester or anything like that, right? Because you kind of establish like, okay, I know what our thresholds are emotionally, politically, etc., right? So you can make certain jokes in those kinds of situations and knowing you're going to be okay, So
yeah, dude.
So I think it's fine. And like the problem was, then the director decided to integrate our team in like an open office space with the rest of everyone else, and that was a difficult switch to me because I was always a very verbal person, very vocal. So I'd get an email and I'm like really upset about it, and I'd be like, You know, like I'd say things like, fuck me in the ass. Just fuck me in the
just
ass.
Slap my balls in a meat grinder.
But I had my headphones on, so I didn't realize I was saying it fairly loud. I also didn't realize the rest of the room was dead silent. You know?
Just fuck me in the ass, bend me over with lubricant, and insert your penis in my ass.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Achieve orgasm via my ass. Like, you just keep going on and on. Like, people are just horrified.
Yeah.
Like, but somebody's crying in the corner.
But so that would happen.
My ass.
So that would happen all the time, you know, and not exactly in the way that you describe it, but yes, it would happen all the time, and I realized
almost you're hitting the threshold, you know.
And you know, I remember thinking, like, am I doing something bad here? Because no one's gonna call me out. Now, none of these people are gonna call me out because I'm the boss of their bosses. So it's not. No, it's like, you can't say that. You know, I'd be like, you're fired. No, I wouldn't do that. But
that would be funny as fuck.
That would be funny as
you,
fuck.
Like, ruin someone's life. Like,
well, HR would come after me and ruin my life if I did that. But
yeah,
so
it'd be worth it.
But then I thought about it, and I never said anything like, I'm gonna pull my dick out and start just fucking mashing it against the wall. Like I never said anything super sexually suggestive aside from like, fuck me. That was like the biggest thing. What I'd oftentimes do is like, I'd be on the phone with someone. I'm like, okay, sure, yeah, we can. Well, no, actually, we would need the deadline extended. And I'd get off the phone, and I would always mock the phone or whoever I just spoke with. I'd be like, you're not my dad. You're not my dad. You know, and so things like that. So I think it was pretty harmless. Yeah. But that being said, when like the director was angry, I did feel threatened sometimes. Not like physically threatened or anything, but it's just like you don't know what to say when someone is in a position of power. Is like says something hateful about another person in this company who is also in a position of power that you may have respect for, and then they're like, right? And you're like, I don't know. You know, anyway, I don't know. Yeah. That's neither here nor there, but basically I was like, yeah, guys, fuck me in the ass, and no one sued you. So that's good. No one sued me, so that's good. But again, everyone also knew who I was in the sense that like I've always been kind of like silly. You know, like from the moment when I joined the company and I had to work my way from the bottom to like where I got to, I got more maybe like professional in terms of like the meetings and the calls, and like I knew what needed to be done, but I was still Rav. You know, there is a level of seriousness, and I'm super strict. I'm a very strict person when it comes to work and deadlines and the quality of work and communication, stuff like that. Very strict. But I'm also gonna be making poopy jokes all the time and shit like that, you know?
There's nothing like a good old poopy joke just to bring some joy into our lives collectively. Yeah, it's such a weird. I've never worked in I've worked in an office, but I've never worked in an office where it was like people took me seriously.
Oh yeah.
Because I was just like basically a secretary, but like underneath a secretary when I was working in an office. That was when I was at Extended.
Yeah.
And so it was just like I just kept to myself, and I didn't really. I only had one person there that I was close to, and he was real cool. But the one thing is like we had this awkward time happen. Like, you know, when like you don't know someone like that, but you interact with them all the time, like in an office setting or something, and then they say something like real wild, and then you're just like, wow, I didn't expect that coming from them, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he said something one time that made me so uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Like we were sitting there talking about something, and you know how like if you see a girl and you're like with your boy, and you're like, man, like you might say something like she's hot, or like I'd let her punch me, or I'd let her fist my ass. I'm just playing. You know what I mean? Like,
I'd let her sit on my face and Beyblade for hours.
Exactly. But that's what he said, though. He didn't say the Beyblade thing. He was just like, we were just like watching some video on YouTube, and I don't really know this guy like that. This girl just shows up. He was like, wow, she could sit on my face. And I was just like, man, that's rough. Why did you say that? Yeah, dude, she could, like, it's just like, why?
Yeah, well,
like,
that's the thing. If you have, I think there's an example of nuance, right? I would make certain silly jokes, but I wouldn't make silly jokes with a new employee that joined that day right there and then without first allowing them to get acquainted with my management style and who I am as a person, and testing the waters with them, also seeing what's their threshold like. Are they kind of...
How do you test the waters? You just like you ease up to fuck my ass by like being
once I was a project manager, there's not much I could do because I was running a department of people who were running the other people. So it's kind of like you work at the top, like it kind of like you're working with people who are working with people who are working with everyone else in the department, right? So you're kind of micromanaging the people directly beneath you, or you're managing directly beneath you, but then they're responsible for everyone else. And whenever they don't do well, or there's like company things that you need to say, then you take the floor and sort of take control. So I went from, as I was being promoted, I had to introduce new people, I had to train them and stuff like that. And that's when I used to get a feel for what they were like, I try to be not too stiff, and I had different ways of explaining the same thing, and I would see with different people, because some people would be joining this industry and not knowing how to work a computer. The way you'd speak to those kinds of people would be very different to someone who
you'd be like, if you hit the A button, A appears. That's what you say.
Well, like there'd be like reference files or things I'd print out for them, or there'd be things on the wall I'd write, and it would be a different approach for each different person. And usually I'm just naturally gonna joke around or make light of certain things that the go-to was kind of like, if we're working with a client that has some sort of, I don't know, trying stipulations in the way that they want us to do work, I'll maybe make fun of it a little bit, right? They're like, oh, Capcom, but I wouldn't say it like that. Not like I'm some sort of 90s sitcom
More
person.
like Fapcom.
Yeah. More like Fap until I come all over my face,
Fap until I come.
Anyway, here's your password and your username. No, I wouldn't.
It'd be like, you'll get used to me.
You'll get used to me. Anyway, but did you get it? Like Fap and come all over my face?
Like masturbate until I ejaculate, Fap until I come. And you're like making like the little jacking off motion, like you won't stop, like you've been doing it for way too long. Like
yeah, exactly. Start looking up like references online, like look, this is what it means. No, so I would just kind of throw in little things and see how receptive they were, and I think I can be. I think if you talk with enough people, whether you're introverted or not, and I'm an introvert, but I know how to deal with other people and talk with other people in most situations, I sort of got a feel for like, okay, this person's a little bit more, they keep it to themselves, but they don't mind having a little bit of a joke. In fact, that makes them feel more at ease. This person, they're a little bit more extroverted and everything, but if I get a little jokey with them, they become too jokey. Right? They start to not take the environment too seriously enough. So I actually need to dial it back. Usually I had to dial it back with people who were too receptive to the jokes, because then it's like, okay, I'm your boss first, not your friend first. That was like an important thing. And so, but then I'd be a little bit more jokey with people who are very good at their job and took themselves a little too seriously, but were open to the idea of joking around. So you kind of test that out. But then when you become a project manager, you don't really get to test that out anymore, because you don't know who the new employees are. Like every time I looked around each day, there'd be like 20 or 30 new people I've never seen before. And usually what HR would do whenever they hired new people, they would bring them by our desks. It's like, this is the director, this is the project manager, Rav, project manager this, project manager that, and like, I would always be in the middle of something, so we stand up, and I'm like, hey, I'm Rav, nice to meet you. Well, we hope you guys, get the fuck out of here. No, we say like, we hope you guys enjoy the project you're going to be put on. It's very exciting, and if you guys ever need any help, any questions, and your supervisor or project coordinator isn't around, just feel free to walk over here. Some like that, say something to be like, it almost became a copy paste kind of thing, I would say. I think you have to have that. And so that's it. And in that moment, I guess you can try to have a read on them a little bit, but it's always super awkward because HR is trying to be funny. Maybe one of the other project managers is trying to be funny. Maybe the new person or new people, because they're usually in a group, one of them tries to be funny and we all laugh. I've had to, I can't count, it's countless amounts of times that I had to laugh at stuff that I didn't even hear what they said.
Oh man, that's rough.
Just because everybody else starts giggling and I'm like, well, we hope you guys, yep, bye. Like it's so awkward. So
why
awkward.
do my question is like why do we as people okay I think there's like two kinds of people, and I'm definitely the second kind. The first kind is like the people that don't laugh at anything when people laugh, or like me, I'll laugh if other people laugh, like it's like a social, like just to make I also like to laugh to make people, even if the joke's not funny, or I'll kind of convince myself that it's funny in the moment.
Assimilation is a biological trait, it's a genetic trait for survival. And I think laughing when everyone else is laughing is an example of assimilation. And it has been historically vital for us as sort of a pack animal to assimilate historically. And not to say that some people won't. And it's not to say that because you're more likely to assimilate, you're a weaker person or a worse person. That has nothing to do with anything, And there are people who won't laugh at anything because they're assimilating with the different kinds of people. That's all it is, Or with an idea that they have in their heads. But people go through phases, I feel like. And it's just, for me personally, the reason I do it is less trouble.
Yeah.
You don't want to, in situations where you kind of don't give a fuck, you don't want to stand out. If it's something you care about, I think putting your foot down is an important thing to do in those moments, depending on how strong your convictions are. But if it's in a moment you don't give a fuck, I'm not going to be like, whoa, guys, I didn't hear what the person said. I'm not going to fucking laugh until I hear what it was. It's just like...
What did you say? Like, just stop the flow.
Everyone's laughing,
wait,
and I'm
what
like,
did you
what
say?
did he say?
Hey,
what did he say?
Wait, what did you say? Everyone's like laughing. They're getting louder and louder, trying to... What did you say?
What did he say?
Did you hear what he said?
Just start screaming and crying. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like shaking the person. Everyone else is laughing even harder though. Like everyone's like, ah!
Yeah, it sounds like a nightmare. Yeah, but like, you know what I'm saying? In those moments, I really don't give a fuck what they said. In fact, I'm kind of happy sometimes I don't hear what they say, because it's easier for me to laugh at something I think they probably said something funny, rather than hearing something that they said and is painfully unfunny, and I have to force myself
like
to say.
In your head you hear like fap until I calm.
Yeah,
like, that's what you hear.
I'm like
and
laughing,
then you just like you're just sitting there.
I'm like ejaculating,
You just say that?
Yeah.
And they just made a joke about their mother-in-law or something.
Yeah.
Like they said like, oh man, I fucking hate my mother-in-law. I'd be like ejaculating.
Yeah. And I think you can joke, I think, with your superiors too, if you've tested the grounds. Like one of my superiors at one point asked me, are you working hard or hardly working? And I said, I'm hard. And I said that because I knew that they'd find it funny. And later on, we shared the same position, so they were no longer my boss. So,
Yeah, you shared some positions, if you know what I mean.
You want to see my tattoo?